Hey, what's up? Video request. Okay. Call request. Why has Bruce Jenner turned into a bona fide Fruit Loop and had his pecker chopped off? Is it because he had to have sex with Kris Jenner for all those years? Is it because he had wealth and privilege and has been in the spotlight with the Kardashian TV show that has distorted his perception of himself? What are your thoughts? Thanks, bro. I have no doubt you'll be high as fuck while doing this request. Yeah, I'm high. I'm retarded high, actually. Adam B. Hey, aren't you a dude? Hey, you're one of my frenemies. So now, you're one of my ex-trolls turning into a current fan. That happens all the time. Alright, Adam, I'm going to give you a little lesson. Why has Bruce Jenner turned into a bona fide Fruit Loop and had his pecker chopped off? Okay. Bruce Jenner hasn't had his pecker chopped off. I just saw the video from Young Turks, and he hasn't done that. Although I'm sure he will, because he's had the hormone replacement and he even had facial reconstruction surgery. So, yeah, and I saw, the Vanity Fair album cover, and that looked pretty, like he was a woman. Yeah, body and everything looked like a woman. Is it because he had to have sex with Kris Jenner for all those years? No, dude, you're being sarcastic. Stop being sarcastic. Causes confusion in yourself. Kris Jenner's hot. Okay. Are you gay? Is that what's going on? You gay? You don't think Kris Jenner's hot? You're fucking gay. So let's move on. Is it because he has had wealth and privilege and has been in the spotlight with the Kardashian TV show that has distorted his perception of himself? Yeah, I think that definitely has a part of it. Yeah, when you're put into the spotlight like that, you have more courage. Like you're able to take matters into your own hands easier. You see yourself as like a mover and shaker, an author of society, because you're famous. Like if you do it, it causes waves. And so, if somebody feels like that they should do something, and they're not famous, then it's more likely that they won't do it than if they are. If they're smart, because if they're smart and they are famous, and they think that they should do something, then they see themselves as a example to society. And then that ability to make an example of themselves pushes them over the edge and makes them actually do it, gives them enough motivation. I don't think, maybe for selfish, but I don't think it should be looked at that way. People just wanting to help other people do their part because everybody wants to make a difference in the world and have an effect in the world, be successful. I did a video about success. And what is success? I think success is the act of changing the world, making a ripple effect in the world, that little butterfly effect that causes positive change in the world. If you can do that, then you're successful, and all that other stuff like money and stuff doesn't mean anything. Or money, kids and friends and all that stuff doesn't mean anything compared to that. If you're talking about the world, and that's what absolute success is. So if you're in a situation where you can just kind of do something that doesn't take much effort at all, that you wanted to do anyway, that will have huge effect, butterfly effect throughout the whole world, and then a smart person is gonna take that opportunity to do that. So that could have pushed Kris Jenner over the edge, where he says, you know what, this family's crazy. We do all sorts of crazy shit. We do anything. We're not afraid of anything. That's what we're all about. That's what I'm all about. So let's take it to the next level, you know. And yeah, he's probably had the same thought. Like, you know what? If I, you know, document it and come out and talk about it, then it will help because I'm famous and I can gain exposure for my cause. And so, you know, famous people talk about that stuff all the time. So yes. What are your thoughts? Thanks, bro. I have no doubt that you'll be as high as fuck while doing this request. Yep. Okay. Yeah. I think he's a great person to do that because he was kind of seen as the ultimate man. You know, like when was that? 76, where he won the gold medal in the pentathlon, which was back in those days was considered the ultimate sport. Like if you won it, you're considered the best athlete in the world. Because it was like, you know, a mixture of all the different things. And then for that to turn into a woman. So it's like the woman of the mind of the woman. And it's because some people think, oh, women aren't as good at athletes. But if you think about it, that's fucking stupid because what is athletics? Athletics is just running and jumping and shit, you know? I mean, it's like driving a car. Like that would be like saying a guy's going to drive a car faster than a woman, you know? Doesn't make any sense. So that would be a good lesson for people who think that way. But also, no, I think the bigger lesson, though, beyond that, is the fact that, yeah, the whole gender identity and gender... let me talk about the whole gender identity thing for a little bit. I'm going to lie down. So is it something that's happening now, or is it something that is that has been going on forever? Well, I think that there have always been. There's always been gay people. There's always been and there's always been like effeminate men. So kind of like women inside of men's bodies, and then also men inside of women's bodies. In history, they were known as eunuchs. They were like kind of court people, and they were not because they weren't really seen as being threatening because they. I'm going to turn these lights off. They're freaking distracting me. They weren't seen as threatening because they weren't going to start their own dynasty because they weren't going to have babies with women and start dynasties and so those would be kind of like gay guys. But and then of course you've always had the butch women. So can I see myself though? Yeah, there's enough light. So now I think in the past, I'm really high, by the way. Okay. In the past, like how does one question is. Like, what's the difference between a man and a woman? Like, as far as on a soul level, if you believe in reincarnation, to believe that you're a man one life and then a woman the next is kind of, I don't know. Maybe that can people aren't comfortable with that idea. It seems people feel that the sexes are too different than that. It's more than just people in different sexes, but they're actually different, and so. And the idea of thinking of your friend as like your wife, like 100 years ago, is like disconcerting. Whatever. It's like, it's gay. I said faggy in another video, in the Seth video, and it pissed a lot of people off. So I'll say it's like just, it doesn't seem natural. And also on top of that, it seems like women and men are different, like the way that they think. And the the way that they act and everything, like it goes beyond socio-economics and like training, and so I'm kind of the idea that you live many lives as a man or many lives as a woman, and I think I heard from was it some psychic or something? Was it Seth? Said you go like 4 lives, but as each sex, but I think it's like more than that. Like I'm thinking it's like. Or at least, depending on what level of evolution you are, but I think for the last thousands of years, like 10, 20, like 10,000 years, like for the whole like evolution of our species, we have been either a man or a woman. Because that would explain to me how men and women are so different now. It's because it's a reincarnational thing. Because I was thinking about this the other day, not just between men and women, but different like social stratified levels, and like in different kinds of people. People have different personalities, and a lot of the times the personalities are different, even though you're born in the same, you're growing up in the same environment. And so my idea is that these personalities come from other lives, all your other lives. And oops, I'm starting to lose my train of thought, but I'll get it again. So you would have people who are born into certain like lifestyles over and over again. So you would have like the peasant, and he was a peasant many lifetimes, because we live so long and so many lifetimes that and we would live really short lifetimes as well in the past. That living just one lifetime in a certain situation isn't enough. You'd want to live a whole bunch of them. And so maybe it was like a whole bunch. And so when you see people nowadays and you see somebody who's kind of, like your typical, you can actually see it a lot more in Europe, the differences in the personalities. Well, like your typical kind of rustic, like poor, like farmer type person, they're like rude in those days just meant, like poor and out there farmer, but now it kind of means like, and mean too. Mean means average, like in the world of math, just average. Rude meant average, just they're the normal person. But now rude means like like the way that you act, or mean, like when you're not nice, and rude is not nasty. Because in those days they didn't have that wasn't one of their job requirements, was because they just worked in the fields all day long, and then they'd squabble with their family, and so they would treat other people like they treat their family, and so they would act rude. And then the other people, the gentry would go around and collect the taxes and stuff, and have to keep everybody happy, so they become gentlemen. They learn how to act genteel and polite and all that kind of stuff. And so it seems like so then with all these different socioeconomic groups act differently, and then you see people living nowadays who all grew up in the same environment as each other, yet they have different personalities reflecting the different socioeconomic group personalities of the past. It leads you to believe that it's because of reincarnation. They're just, like Mr. Gentile is just a reincarnated gentile, and Mr. Rude is just a reincarnated rustic, And it just explains so much of the childish behavior that we have now. And I think it's because, and a lot of people do act like children. They like, even when they're adults, they like to, they watch Fox News and they're told by Bill O'Reilly who to vote for, this kind of stuff, like adult children. And if you look at reincarnationally, that actually makes sense too, because back in the past, most people wouldn't even live to adulthood anyway. Like back in the days of, in the 1600s, I think, like, only like a quarter of the people would live to adulthood. Most people, and like half the people would die before their first birthday, and all that stuff, just because it's, maybe we forget about how hard it is to raise kids, but, kids walk off, fall down wells, fall into rivers, get attacked by animals, all kinds of ways kids die, get sick. And so if most of the population are children, and then you draw back on all of your reincarnational memories that form the personality that you are today, and most of those reincarnated memories are you being a kid before you ever got a chance to be an adult, then that would explain why you're acting like a kid now, because most of the time you were a kid anyway. Like if you're going to put your past into one kind of life, then most of it would be childhood, and then only the last 2 seconds would be adulthood. And so that's why you're acting like a kid. Like it would all fit together and make perfect sense. So, And so I was started thinking, if women and men have been men and women separately for all those years, because men and women have different experiences in life. Men are on the march, going to different worlds, taking risks all the time, because they have to, so they see as taking risk as a necessity. And fighting, and then, the massacres that the armies would do or whatever, and then you would compare that to the reincarnational experiences of women, which is, sitting around inside of a house with a bunch of other women, only there's no men around, because they're like off at work or off at war or whatever. And then they just so they're working on something like, making clothes or whatever, and just talking about stuff. But never having actually been around to other places or taken any risks or anything. And so then you extrapolate that into the future, into now, and look at how men act and how women act. Men go out and they do the shootings, the mass shootings. Women don't ever do that. And that's the kind of stuff that soldiers would do in armed wars and stuff. Let's see, men take more risks. They get in bad car accidents more, cliff jumping accidents more, stuff like that. And they travel more and are generally more adventurous and that kind of a thing. And then if you look at women, they like to talk. They like to talk about any and everything forever with each other, and they're not quite as like to travel as much. They're more like sedentary. So that would like reflect their actually reincarnational experiences in the past and explain why they're different personalities today, even though they were all, raised in the same environment nowadays, same high school, same activities and all this, same homework, yet all those personality characteristics of the past are now here, only in this microcosm. Like high school would have one of each. You could look at high school as like a meeting of the minds or something. I don't know, like some kind of, like the fair, the biggest fair you could imagine in the middle of like the land, where and you would pick one person from each village or something and throw them in, mix them all together. That would be like a modern day high school, because you get all the different personalities, because it's all the different reincarnational stuff. So, yeah, but I think that the world is changing now, in that the different socioeconomic personality types are different. Are melting away. The barriers are melting away, and so there's no need for different people to act differently to each other. You want everybody to be polite but not fake. You want everybody to be, not rude, but, honest or whatever. So like kind of like a balance between everybody, and have everybody kind of learn how to find like a common personality. And but not just about the different socioeconomic groups, but also between men and women with the sexes. Because the men and women are living in the same world now with the same expected activities and responsibilities, that you should give just as much opportunity to women as men in all of the different activities, and to men as women. So, which would mean that the personalities would meld together also, which makes it so that you don't have to live so many lives in a row to interchange between the body of a man, body of a woman, because the personalities are more similar. And but also because now that's happening and you can change and interchange, that people are going to start doing that, and that a lot of people are also going to be born into one sex and then wanting to make the change in the middle of that life, because they weren't ready. Like they're pushing the envelope. All these people are pushing the envelope. Well, if you couldn't do it, let's do it. That kind of like they suddenly opened up the floodgates, or they suddenly opened up the borders. Like when they opened up West Germany to East Germans, they all flooded in. So maybe everybody's flooding in. Like, oh, now you can reincarnate other sexes. Let's do it. Oh no, I don't. But also, they do it, like for the original reason, so they can show everybody else that it's that there isn't that big of a difference between men and women. You know, like as far as athleticism, women have always done what men do, and men have always done what women do. It's just a sliding scale of to what degree. But I mean, as far as like Bruce Jenner in athleticism, you know, men aren't any more athletic than women because women and men both live in bodies, and so that's what that is, jumping and all that. And women always did that. And so, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, yeah, I think the human race is kind of becoming more homogenous sexually. Men and women's personalities becoming more similar. And so, yeah, you're going to have, like, the interchange. And the drastic difference isn't going to be as much. You're not going to have, like, the totally effeminate guy. You'll just have, like, the more slightly effeminate guy or whatever. The degrees will come in because all these different people are going to be mixing in. And then being able to find a middle ground where you're maybe in an androgynous soul, but you're inside of a girl's body. So you're, like, basically like a girl who understands both, or like a guy, or an androgynous soul inside of a guy's body, or a guy who understands both. Now that doesn't have anything to do with homosexuality. I think in the future, you'll have these like androgynous souls, and they'll have babies with each other and have sex with each other and love to have sex because of the whole carnal thing about it. But it wouldn't freak them out to think like 2 lives ago that they were a different sex, you know, because you can see a lot eye to eye together, and it's not so much like an emotional thing, you know, like about when you're having a relationship with the opposite sex, having babies with them, but it's just like they're just, or it's not as like awkward, I guess. It's just they're just like your friend who you're having sex with, and you're having babies with, and no big deal. Maybe even sex wouldn't even be that big of a deal. You know, you'd have babies with this person, but then you would be having sex with some other people too. You know, I don't know. Where was I talking about? So, yeah, in the future. Yeah, so men and women will be kind of, you know, having interchangeable jobs like they do now, but more in the future, and interchangeable activities, more co-ed type of stuff. You know, they're thinking about doing co-ed Olympic racing, like bike racing, and mixed CrossFit, I think, exercises, and just mixing them together. I have the idea of having a mixed high school Tour de France. You know, because that actually mimics history. You know, you have the hordes go together, but yeah, and have men and women more similar, and maybe the human body will even evolve a little bit to where the human body is more similar between men and women. So men and women can actually do more stuff mixed, where the woman isn't so much smaller and weaker than the man, but a lot more similar. You know, and then maybe in the future, like thousands of years, that would eventually evolve into creatures that are even more homogenous, and then they become asexual, and then they become spirit beings, you know what I mean? Something like that. So this is kind of along that line of evolution. Yeah, because men and women, man, like, they don't see eye to eye very well at all, dude. Like, men and women don't understand each other, it seems like. You know? It's like you don't, like, you freaking each other out, not. You know, like, if you like somebody of the opposite sex, why do people not know what to do or say? And like the men are from Mars, women are from Venus, type of a weird thing. You know, like there was that whole thing about the warriors. Like there were these chicks who wanted to join the army, you know, and do the battles with the guys, and all the guys were like, "Fuck that!" And I don't know if I could deal with that, like being in a battle with some super hot girl in front of me. and seeing balls whiz by her head, I'd be like, fuck this, dude. You know, like, what happens if she gets her fucking brains blown out right in front of you? That'd be like weird. I don't know. Stuff like that. I think I am getting fucking sidetracked. So let's move on to the next video. Peace out.